Welcome. Imagine once this time of transition stabilizes, and it will exist in a new pattern, a new set of balances. Certainly, there's still changes, but there are new boundaries. Not only are there new boundaries, but there are new rhythms. And within these rhythms, we will live in essentially a different way of life, a different way of being human. Right now, we are in the transformation out of old ways of being towards this new stability. During such a time, many things are unsettled because as soon as you begin to break the balances that have been normal, you unleash the presence of many forces that didn't fit, didn't have space. And during such a time of volatility, it can be very confusing how to navigate. What's real? What isn't real? Where is your influence? Where isn't it? Becomes quite unfortunately easy to get caught up in believing in things that we don't really want to be here. Things that are gone, things that seem to be returning, yet really are just making a cameo appearance during the transition between the ages. As we learn to trust what is truly becoming real, we begin to witness something quite remarkable. In a very real way, the age is changing because certain sets of forces are emerging. In the same way a child's little tooth is pushed out by the emergence of a new tooth, the new age has a presence that is real beneath everything that we might see in front of our faces. Now, I say might because I'm not the judge of what you pay attention to. Of course, you're here. So being here, listening to this is already an indication that you're looking for something else, and possibly that you tuned into this on your own. And what we share here is an affirmation of what you know to be true. Within this affirmation is a trust that there is something that's pushing the old ways out. And the ways in which we can witness old ways of being and old skins of our own is temporary. It's even fleeting. Now, to the extent that we focus our attention on shards of the past, on remnants, on old skins that sort of embody like zombies coming to life temporarily. It's fundamentally important that we recognize that it is our own awareness. It is the presence of our current. The current of our attention is a force. The currency is what we spend our attention. We spend our attention on whatever we focus on. So invariably, if you focus on a remnant of the past, it's going to feel real. And yet we can do that without recognizing that we're the ones doing that. It's imperative to understand and to embrace your own power in this way, to recognize that it is you and what you put attention to that brings that sense of presence and realness into your life. When you don't recognize that it's this power, that it's you who bring the currency to the current moment. When you don't recognize that, it's possible to feel like you're being pushed around by reality, by things beyond your control, because your control begins at a point where perhaps you don't know how to get your leverage. And that is where we begin. Where do you learn to shift your attention? In which places of your day, of the moments, of the cycles that you step through in your life? Time to find out. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I am coming through COVID. Wasn't so bad. I have a lot to give you that I haven't been willing, able, ready to give you because I had caught COVID. For me, it was like, hey, I sort of enjoy being isolated in my way. My entire YouTube channel has been born during this time. I've shifted my business model, my presence, my spiritual service, all of it together onto the internet. And I've loved connecting in this way so much that I've been really quite restrained. My whole family has been restrained in connecting with others in this way. Well, we got it. That's 3 years of apprehension. It's nice to get it over with. And, it was a couple days of torture. And I'm excited to talk to you about it. But the torture was like, I knew exactly how to navigate through it because of the guidance I've had. And wow, more worth it than I can explain quickly. I want to say hi. Hey. Oh, there we go. I had my whole chat window blocked. Kinsey, Trevor, Corvin. Thank you for being here. Angie, Erica, Karen, Tom, Sarah. This is wonderful. It's so good to see you all. It's good to see you all. This is a shirt from Mexico. My wife's father grew up in Mexico. He came from Mexico City, and her mother came from Israel, and they met and moved here to one of the best places in the world, Ithaca, New York. So she grew up here, but the family recently traveled to Mexico. I got this. I love it. It's really beautiful. It looks a little bit like suspenders online, but it's not. These are these beautiful, beautiful stripes, and it feels suited. I'm in a great mood. I have a lot to share with you today. And that alone excites me. It's the kind of day of like a flowering, and it's all in line and sync with the experience I just had. If you have watched the Purpose of Pandemic, it was one of my first channelings from Thoth. and it came through near the beginning of the pandemic. And I was nervous to post it, but at the time it was sort of like everything was so chaotic. I felt the message and shared it, and I haven't touched it. Within that channeling is a lot. And if you sit with it and just trust it, like rest on it, sit on it, like allow it to be, rather than a speculation, something that you embrace, a lot makes sense. But having gone through it, I just witnessed this happen to myself. So the preparation I had was this: diseases are not diseases. I encourage you not to identify a disease with simply the biochemical experience that we can watch. So a flaw in logic occurs when we take a microscope and look at what we can call a disease within the human body. It's a really, really simple flaw in logic, and it's the same flaw in logic, and it's the same leverage point that I introduced in the opening. Think about how simple this is. You study a body, you study everything you can see with a microscope in an old-fashioned way with little lenses and stuff. And so you know what's going on, and then someone gets sick and you scan the body and you say, what's new? What's different? And so they identify something that's new and they say, that is the disease. Like, it seems to make sense, right? Except it's a phenomenal error in logic. What if that's the toenail of the disease? Like, there's a gigantic presumption going on here when you say that is the disease. So I'm going to introduce you to a very simple shift in comprehension. It seems like not a big deal, like maybe you could speculate on it. But if you rest in the idea that the little things you see moving in the bloodstream or wherever they may be as a disease are the disease, you got stuck right from the beginning in a certain form of comprehension. Now let's review. I introduced this last week. We live in 3 dimensions. We have, many of us, bless you, anyone who hasn't, but many of us have been raised to think 3-dimensionally. And what that means is, like, we're going to be real simple here: up, down, left, right, physical body, right? So X, Y, Z axis. Set that aside and think in terms of a plane. You have a flat plane. You have a flat plane, right? If I lived on this flat plane and I moved this lighter through the flat plane, you would not see a lighter. You would see that. You would just see that. So when you develop a comprehension of reality where you can only go this way, this way, this way, this way, something comes through the plane and you're just going to see this slice. Now, what if something comes and it rests on your plane? You're only going to see the bottom, right? That's all you'll ever see. You won't even see a slice from in the middle, which maybe something different would be in that. So it's not moving through your reality, it's resting on your reality. Think of a disease this way. A disease has a 4th-dimensional presence. In that 4th-dimensional presence, there's all sorts of stuff going on that we don't typically measure or see. When you just call the disease the footprint that it has in the physical plane, it's like calling someone their footprint, or maybe even just the soles of their feet, or the part of their foot that touches the ground. Now that seems pretty ridiculous, right? You don't have a thorough comprehension of what's going on if that's how you understand and relate to the disease. So let's say the disease is there, we're going to fight it. So you keep jabbing at the feet, right? Like, here we are. The feet are here, and we're going to keep jabbing at the feet. Well, you just move the feet, move the feet, move the feet, move the feet. Now, maybe you find a way to isolate it and fight the feet, and you drive the thing away. But is that how you would fight something if you really wanted to fight something? Would you restrict yourself to only striking the feet? doesn't make much sense. Now, I'm not even discussing whether or not we should consider fighting yet. I'm just suggesting when we only address the feet, we've got a very limited range of response to what's going on. The leap of faith. I see this fourth dimension. Call it the spiritual dimension for now. I see and move in this fourth dimension. Many of you do in different ways. The tools that we share here are the tools to navigate staying sane as you open your awareness into this fourth dimension of awareness. And I give you gifts from this fourth dimension. So we do two major things here in this channel and within this community. We talk about the strategies to tune and open yourself to the fourth dimension. And we share information and knowledge and insight from an awareness that is awakened to all of this. And hopefully with this range of approach, you can begin to have a much clearer sense of what's going on in this fourth dimension. Well, here's a big nugget. COVID is not your enemy. COVID is a transitional presence during this time. It marks a shift between ages. Now, it's not the only thing that does, but it's a profound thing. And it fundamentally consumes parts of you that don't belong in the next era. When it sweeps through, if you say, take it, take it, take it, you suffer a lot less. I had one significant day of suffering, 3 days of not so bad, and I still feel a little like woozy. I did 16 reps of certain tough ab stuff today rather than 21. Like I'm a little, I'm a little weaker. Goodness, that's worth it, right? And I don't mean to be blithe. Plenty of people don't think about this and don't even experience much, plausibly because they're just very naturally attuned to shifting with these winds. Awesome. I think we don't notice how many people don't need to think about spirituality because they're just tuned into a lifestyle that's designed for this time. And they know how to, they step through and they become their new person and it's not a big deal to them. Well, some of us need a little more intentionality. And with my experience recently, my intentionality was clear. I was prepared to see it this way. I saw it this way. It works. And perhaps more importantly, I watched it work. I watched it within myself. And it was really terrifying. The elements of my life that COVID took away. Look, I got COVID on my birthday. I asked why. I told you last week why. This was why. It took away the worst. Took away the worst. Took away the worst. There were several layers of our lives together as a family that I watched the worst versions come to the surface. Fights with my wife, dynamics with my children, witnessing elements of myself and my attitude towards my life and my future. And they were like shoved in my face right here. And because I have this preparation, I said, okay, guess that's what I'm letting go of. Take it. It seems like, I hope it seems straightforward, but think about this. All I had to do was say, surrender, surrender, trust, trust, take it. But I was staring at elements of my life. I could write you novels about these different sides of myself. And if I had, I would have been weaving myself with that part of me. And if I'd woven myself with that part of me, I would have gotten in a drag out fight with COVID. And I suggest to you that I'd be sick for quite a while. People talk about long-term COVID. Look, you're not giving it up. Let it go. There's no other way to put it. And part of the point here is you do it without understanding. You don't make a catalog and negotiate and say, I'll give you this and I'll give you this, but I won't give you this, this, and this. No. You say, I surrender, take it. And for that to work, you have to have a fundamental trust in the whole process. And that's challenging. Something that can induce this much suffering, that can induce death, that may well have taken away family members for you or friends. That's a daunting prospect. And it's also, it's doubly painful for anyone who you stare at it and it's like, oh, you're telling me that they could have lived if they just done it this way? No, I don't know. That's not for me to choose. I will suggest to you that when you allow it to work this way, you want to live, you're staring face to face with Gaia's presence and saying, okay, I get it. I get that you did this. So talk to her. You don't want to talk to her? Like, I don't know what I can do for you. A lot of people don't want to talk to her. A lot of people don't want to talk to her, but it's stupid not to. You're here, and she's the closest presence to you because this is her. It's real easy to talk to her. It's not real easy to hear, but you can talk to her. And if you keep affirming that you want to be open to the answers, they'll be a core part of your consciousness in not so long. So let's talk about this turning of the age. I was given a gift during this COVID time. I was given a bunch of gifts. First of all, I carry frustration that I don't have more success and more reach. During this time, it was like, dude, you don't want it. And I'm like, of course I want it. Of course I want it. Of course I do. You don't want it. And I'm like, well, I do want it, but I haven't wanted it enough. Why haven't I wanted it enough? Because I like my life. My life is wonderful in so many ways. Now I've been through a ton, and to live in the way I do right now is just phenomenal. I spend so much time with my family. My closest friends are kind and loving. I don't cry alone. If I find myself crying, I've got a bunch of people I can call, and I do. And I have company and care and hope and food and music and sunshine and nature and peace and time. I start working when I want to. I stop working when I want to. I create. I get to spend my life making up ideas and creating and enjoying that creative process. I like it. Just the way it is. and a broader reach brings, I don't know what it brings. So that's why I haven't wanted it enough. And then I get to take it a little deeper. And it's like, if you have been here, as some of you have for several years, I've shared all sorts of stuff that's deeply controversial. And I've got a bag full of other things that I've, sort of been waiting to share at the right time. You know what I do? I'm like, okay, fine, I'll share it. And I say it, and it's like, buried somewhere in a two-hour video amidst another 100 2-hour videos that I got posted. Okay, I said it, then I don't say it again, right? And I'm like, well, if Gaia really wants to share it, then it'll spread. No, that's not how it works. I'm actually being much more deeply respected than that. Like, if I'm willing to hold space in the way I've been asked to hold space, I have to be able to say it again and again and again and be willing to deal with whatever happens. And I haven't been. I haven't been at all. I've been like, well, I said it once. Let's move on now. Well, look, a lot of this bears repeating. So I'm going to start repeating these because I just lived it. It was daunting for me to say this once when I channeled it. The purpose of pandemic. And I put it out there and I left it there and I moved on. Now I'm going to assert to you, I just watched this happen. The deepest, darkest feelings I've had got pulled right to the surface and taken away with very little drama. We did have some yelling. The worst sides of my marriage and the worst sides of my stuff with my kids were right there. And I was in the worst side of myself in relation to those feelings. And then I said, okay, fine, take it. And this morning, oh my God, it's just gone. I don't know if I've ever felt this way, the way I did this morning. Last night, I spent an hour and a half with my kids before going to bed. Often it annoys me because they stay up forever. Like, we're doing our best to give them more freedom, right? So we give them choices about how to live as often as possible. But They take forever. And I was just like, I'm with my kids. I'm with my kids. I loved it. I was resting in my heart with them. I couldn't focus on anything. I couldn't listen to my audiobook, but I was with them just in this joy, in this song. In the morning, same thing. I got up, we're like making up songs. I'm playing around with yoga poses for like an hour and a half. We got up at 7 or so together, like, or they did. I got up earlier than that. And once they got up, I was like, yay. Often I'm like, oh, I can't keep doing yoga now. I have to take care of the kids. Today, I'm just like, yay. Take care of them a little, do some more yoga. I can't even tell you. This level, if I can experience this level of joy on a regular basis, okay, fine. I'll deal with more shit through my work and YouTube. This has been the ground. I've got to be this happy before I'm willing to like deal with the stress of people freaking out because I'm telling them that, eventually, by the way, I have been taught to trust that we're all going to be going by the same gender pronoun eventually. I can see the wave in culture where people are like, stop being fucking assholes to each other. We're all just one. Hi. Like, chill out. That's what I see in the future. Like all these traumatic fights that we're going through right now are the remnants of the old age holding on. People like digging in, like trying to be John Wayne still, trying to reaffirm old gender roles in a way that's complete bullshit. So this brings us to the next section. And I've totally avoided this one because it's just like, I don't want to participate. And then it's like, wait, but this is needed. Let's just be present with the simplicity of this, people. Gender is created. Now, it's created before you're born. It's created into bodies. There are 2 layers. There's biological and there's the spiritual presence, which we could argue has these mental components. Now, people typically think that the mental component controls the spiritual presence, which is deeply flawed. And the spiritual presence is much more up to adjustment than the biology. So when you comprehend that we've been invited, when you trust that we've been invited to live in a human body, you identify as a spirit entering bodies, leaving them, coming back, leaving, coming back. It's a lot easier to trust. Well, yeah, in this lifetime, I was born in a male body. In that lifetime, I'm born in a female body, whatever. Let me tell you how this goes down. 50, 100 years, settled. 50, okay. In 50, it'll be kind of okay. 100 years, it'll be settled. People will still be in male and female bodies, but the gender polarization will be something that's more subject to change, and people will essentially be able and willing to adopt it. You still do it, and in fact, in some cases, it'll be more accessible to be extreme, to have a very extreme gender polarization that feels healthy, because it's coming more from a space of choice. Doesn't mean it's all up to choice, because a lot of your presence will still be karmic, and there's value in holding a gender polarity in so many cases. However, there is a deep richness in staying in tune with your relationship to your spirit, staying in tune with your relationship to your spirit in a way that keeps you connected to the rest of the universe. You can't do it unless you remain deeply aware that ultimately you're not male or female. That's something you're doing. Now, I happen to like being male. I happen to like being my own version of male. I curl up. I like sitting like this. Haven't done this very much on YouTube. It's not perfect for talking. But part of the point here is that there have been many restrictions that people remain stuck in because they're not intrinsic to the experience, folks. This is like all sort of rules of the game as it used to be. It's deeply, fundamentally ill to believe that you need to control other people. The control of what other people are is typical of someone who's not at peace with themselves. When I first experienced the most extreme version of sort of feminine receptivity within myself, I was scared. It was scary. It was like I was high. I was on cannabis, which can loosen your perceptual awareness in particular ways. And if you do it a lot, you're much looser in that way, and you can end up in all sorts of spaces. And I experienced it, and rather than rejecting it, I was like, okay, like I guess I know what this feels like. Is that me? So, I mean, allowing your perception of reality to recognize that there is a fluidity accessible enables you to make a more intentional choice to turn around and say, what am I dealing with? What is my karma in this life? And the reason that matters is that's the stuff you can't just make disappear because you call yourself a woman or a man. You can call yourself a cat, but it's not going to change certain fundamental dynamics underneath it all. But guess who's the ultimate judge of that? You. Now, I think there's some deep flaws involved in like thinking that we can force other people to participate in our self-image. I do. I think that's a legitimate concern. Like, you can't get mad at me for mistaking you for someone if you look like one thing or another thing. But look at how this works in the end of the day. I see it. See if this is accessible to you. I see a wave of people just going like, yeah, I identify thoroughly as a man, but I don't give a shit what you call me. So what if we all just called each other Z or one? Who cares? Who cares? You know, the care is in blanketing people who really do feel the need to stop being identified as something they don't want to be central to their personality. It was initially a choice to say it's central to my personality to be identified as this. Now, yeah, is there something intrinsic to your biology? Sure. Does it matter? Sure. But does it have to matter more than all the other things we could emphasize? No. Why? Why does it? Doesn't. And here's the thing. It's a return into oneness. Now, that's an accessible phrase that many people would embrace under all sorts of other contexts, right? It's a return into oneness. In the oneness, you let go of the polarization. Just enough to understand why we're present in the polarization. Now, let me be clear. There's something intrinsic to the presence of gender in our lives. It's one of the pillars of our experience in this reality. And to get into a place within your consciousness where you understand that this is chosen, that we have entered this reality a little bit more like an amusement park, the liberation of this space is beyond compare. So it's absolutely appropriate to consider people who are insisting that they get to be identified as neutral as pioneers. There's all sorts of baggage. There's all sorts of confusion. Yes, I agree that it can be very hostile, all sorts of blame. And when someone says, you don't have the right to identify me as something that is intrinsic to you, coming out of your worldview and asserting that that's what reality is, that's legit. It's legit to say, hey, we want a reset button. we want a reset button. And in that reset button, you gain access to oneness. You do. And then, I rest more comfortably in my manhood than I ever have in many ways. My voice naturally tends towards deep. Sometimes it doesn't. I can sing it up. No, I'm not going to do it for you now. I can sing pretty high and hold it in a beautiful way. And as I said, I can feel the sort of the femininity or receptivity of my experience of just like allowing the softness to be real, allowing myself to tell you what I tell my other male friends. Don't cry alone. Don't cry alone. Find the friends you can call when you need to cry. I did that just last week. It's one of the most blessed moments of trust I've had in years. For men to be able to do that, it's necessary to not be scared of embracing what we've thought of as feminine within ourselves. And there's deep beauty in saying we're going to press the reset button. We're going to hold the reset button. We're going to start over. And guess what? I'm telling you, you get to go right back into the same kind of strengths and growth that you might love about being a man, or grace and passion and wildness, or whatever you may associate with being feminine. Let's find out how much more beautiful life can be when we stop fighting over shit like this. Now I'm going to change the title once we leave here, but I want to address what the title initially was, because when I made a prayer the other day, what's most important, that is what came. Why is violence real? This is one of the themes that I feel like I need to be repeating again and again. It's a profound recomprehension of what's going on in our reality. You have to understand layers of prioritization in order for this to work, in order for this to settle in. For all intents and purposes, start with the purpose of composting. I know people like to say Earth is a playground, Earth is a prison, Earth is a school. Earth is a compost pile, first and foremost. Thoth taught me this 6 years ago. Michael and Lucifer were present in the comprehension. I went straight from Lucifer to Michael. Lucifer sent me to Michael quickly because I was terrified. It was not too comfortable. And I made that arc. Michael received me, guided me out of any relationship to that which I didn't and don't need to be. It's really cool. Relieved a lot of fear, and left me with an absolute trust that this is the way it works. Earth is a compost pile. Now, Earth isn't just a compost pile. It's only a compost pile for plenty of beings who come here, and the first priority is to digest the compost within yourself. And it's karmic compost. So when you have karmic compost, some of it is actually toxic. Some of it is actually full of seeds that we don't want to live. Think about that. Seeds that we don't want to live are still organic material. So when we break them down, we can reuse the organic material. If you have a plant that grows the concept of violence and teaches you how to hate and dominate other people, that's arguably evil, right? So you want to just get rid of it. But if you just get rid of it, it regrows. Get it? If you just get rid of elements of yourself that scare you, it goes somewhere else. And during plenty of phases of reality, someone else wants that because they thrive on violence. They thrive on dominance. And believe me, that continues to be huge numbers of people within our communities. And they might pretend that's not who they are, but they just over rely on the violence of the police to inflict their control over things. Now, I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't use control to prevent rape and murder and theft. I'm suggesting that if that is your standard of a good life, you ain't dreaming. You don't know how to dream. We need to live in worlds where it's not necessary for anybody to beat up to intimidate them out of stealing because we're surrounded by so much joy. That's the kind of standard we need to be setting. And we're not nearly deep enough into that to even have a proper conversation about it. To believe in a way of being where we just don't have to fight about such things, you have to feel it first. You have to entertain it. You can't fight it. You can't say, oh, that goes against human nature, and start bringing up all your examples. Start talking about Detroit and how LA is doing now. I'm not telling you how to get there yet. I'm telling you, you need to protect the belief and the trust and the dream within yourself, because it's still a seed. If you shoot a flamethrower at a seed, you're going to burn it. Now, the reality is a lot of seeds need protection before they grow stronger. So what kind of nurturing does this seed need? Well, at the moment, YouTube. I can tell you about it, and I can tell you that I'm doing the best to live a life like this. So, why does violence exist at all? Well, there's a very, very simple answer. People don't want to deal with their own shit. It's the difference between finding a part of yourself that you don't like and trying to throw it away, and finding a part of yourself that you don't like and carefully taking it to the appropriate compost pile. There are some plants, particularly ones with the stronger kinds of seeds, that need to compost in blackness. And you need to keep a tarp over them long enough for them to die and not be able to reseed, because they'll regrow right in the compost pile. So you need to you can't just compost everything in the same place. You have to know enough about plants to know, this will die, this won't reseed, this won't reseed. All we have to do is turn that over a couple times and it'll kill it and we'll be fine. But these plants need to be in that black bin or covered by that black tarp. And when we put them there, they need to stay for this long. This is karma. This is how you have to handle your own karma. And until you commit to handling your own karma this way, a very simple pattern can emerge. And this goes through all walks of life. Shit comes up in me that I don't like. Rather than appropriately handle this, I just fight with someone else and try to force them to deal with it. People do this all the time. This is abusive relationships in every way of being. And make no mistake, if you can't see these patterns within yourself, you're not safe and you're not healthy. This is not a situation where you can identify that person who's worse than you. You have to identify when you feel like shit, and then you assert yourself in any way, in a way that makes you not feel like shit, in a way that leaves someone else feeling a little bit worse. Tell me you never do that. Let's be clear. You don't feel good. Rather than carefully evaluate what's going on and look into it and take responsibility for it and do yoga and meditate and stare at it and pray and ask what to do, you get in some kind of disagreement with someone you love. And when the disagreement's over, rather than evaluate how are you both doing, you just kind of try to hold over and, get through it and come out the other side. And what you don't watch is that one person in the relationship feels worse. I certainly watch myself do this to my wife, to my kids. And every time I'm like, fuck, go back to practice, pray. What is it? What's in me? Take it back. And every time I take responsibility back, I see it in their eyes. They're like, good. And they don't hold anger at me because I've literally taken the presence back from them. If you think that you're actually accomplishing something by taking a part of yourself and flinging it away, you're totally mistaken. It'll just happen again. It's a terrifying cycle. Oh, by the way, it's totally a normal way of life for most human beings. Let's say many human beings don't get to live in the freedom from our own karma. Most human beings are still in karma. We're still living in a karmic ocean. And to understand that this karmic ocean is essentially a compost pile of sorts, you have to be able to dream beyond the end of it. And to dream beyond the end of it, you have to believe in a new age. That is what we're doing, people. That is what this is all for. We are here sharing the answers I got to these prayers. Once I understood much of what I just explained to you, I said, okay, what do I do? What do you want me to do? I'm not done with my karma. I get that I need to keep responsibility for my own karma. And that goes all the way down to you can't hold negativity towards any groups or individuals in reality. You can't hold it. You can experience it. You can't hold it. You can't identify other people, including the worst, nastiest, most awful, violent criminal. You can't think of maximum security prisons as the place where the worst, most awful things live. You can't think it, because when you do that, you project pieces of yourself into it and you make it worse. It's your job not to make any of it worse. And keep coming back and saying, what do I do with this within myself? What do I do within myself? This is when karma becomes dharma. Karma is the burden of the momentum of all the negative things you create and might create tomorrow. You create karma when you generate a pattern that bears weight that goes against your true soul, your soul's purpose in harmony with love. Anytime you make a decision to generate momentum against your own current in these ways, you generated karma. Dharma doesn't transcend karma, but it's a life committed to transforming it in service. So as you go through your life, you're basically spiritually potty trained now, and you know how to handle your karma, and you're regularly brought into relationship with people who are coming through patterns that you're really quite good at moving through now, or at least a lot better than you used to be. Tremendous difference, phenomenal difference, a lot more joy. Rest in it. Rest in it. This is what we're doing. And the patterns are very simple. And I'll wrap this up and then we're going to do a meditation. Here are the patterns. Please understand this. You come into this reality with all sorts of stuff. Some of it you want, some of it you don't want. One of the simplest ways to organize your spirit is to take what you don't want and to put it on one frequency. So the earth isolates us within a range of frequencies. Call them colors for now. From just above black to just below white. And then you're going to choose one frequency within that, call it a color, and you're going to say, that's my garbage dump. Now, believe it or not, people choose all sorts of different frequencies. People here choose this frequency. People here choose this frequency. People here choose this frequency. People choose all different frequencies to call their garbage dump without knowing that's what you do. The only measure that matters is that you're using a garbage dump that isn't really a garbage dump. It's just another frequency. The transition from karma to dharma brings you into a place where you're no longer spiritually so unaware that you just fling your negatives towards a whole frequency. You say, I am all the color. I am all this color. I want all my colors to be clean. I don't want to say I never get to use lime green. That's part of me. I don't want to always use that as a garbage dump. This is it. I know this might not be as exciting as you want spiritual transcendence to be, but this is the cornerstone of spiritual transcendence. Because in this, you don't say boys are blue, girls are pink. You don't do that anymore. Oh my God. If I could tell you how much difficulty I had in accepting the fact that my son liked pink so much. He loved pink and red. At the moment, he's in a phase where he dresses largely like little boys that looked like me when I was a kid. And sometimes he likes this pink skirt that drives me fucking crazy. And he just looks at me and says, Daddy, it's my body. I can wear what I want to. It's hilarious. Who made the rules? Understand that this is what we're talking about here. When you take frequencies, particularly in the form of color, and you say, this is not me. This is me. That's not you. You don't get to be there. That's me. You've already broken the whole process. The whole process doesn't work. That doesn't mean you can't have preference. It just means you have to take full responsibility for the whole spectrum. Because if you don't take full responsibility for the full spectrum within yourself, you don't get a full self. You never get to embody white light. White light is all the colors. You pull any one light out of that, it's glaringly present. If you need to be able to embody white light. You don't have to wear pink skirts. You don't have to wear blue overalls, but you need to be able to embody white light. Understand the difference. You don't have to isolate on any frequency that you don't particularly want to be on. But you can't resist it and reject it, Because if you do, it will stand out and you can never be one. You can never be pure. It's interesting. It's beautiful. It's simple. You just have to prioritize it and keep coming back to it again and again and again. So here's how we're going to do it. Over the course of the past week of being sick, I've stubbed my toe, I've bashed my finger, I've lost touch with my body movement in a way that's very disconcerting because I'm used to being pretty graceful and aware with my felt sense. So even though my mind feels sharp and present, I know I'm not at my best. So I am not going to be giving readings today. I am going to answer questions, and we're going to do something that I think we should do a lot more of, which is we're going to go through a meditation, and everybody's going to diagnose yourself. And when you diagnose yourself, following that, you can share some, and we're going to discuss some, which hopefully will help other people analyze yourself. Now, this is intended to move things towards giving you the skill of fishing rather than just giving you a fish. I think I give too much fish in my readings, and we need to give you the skill. So we're going to go through the meditation, which I feel great leading. You go through it, and all you're going to do is pay attention to what stands out the most. What stands out the most? Then, by focusing on what stands out the most, that's your spirit saying, here's where most of your attention needs to be, or at least your first priority. It's a phenomenal level of information. And my immediate encouragement to you is, in your life, your spirit is already communicating a lot to you. You probably know it. Most of you probably know a lot of what your spirit is communicating to you. The first thing you can do is amplify it, respect it more. And this is how we're going to do it. So we're going to use this meditation to functionally accomplish that. And when we're done, I'd like to use some examples. And so this way, more people can get information about yourself, and we'll use the examples, which will help hopefully enable everyone to accurately learn to interpret and to get better and better at interpreting, and eventually to do it for other people. This is what excites me the most. I'm going to take a little break. I believe I turned on supers. You're welcome to donate in my absence or throughout the course of the next phase. You're always welcome to. And you're really welcome to click like whenever you can. In fact, do me the honor, the respect of knowing that it always matters. I'm always grateful. I will ask sometimes, feel a little silly. And it's beautiful. Like, please show your appreciation, show your respect. Clicking it there is a blessing. Shares with others that you love these. Thank you. I'll be back in a couple minutes. Much love. So much. Something beautiful is happening. And the core shift of it is that beings are being born into this world with the insistence that they get to claim their core connection to their spirit. Period. We can't tell them they are only this birth and death. No, no, unacceptable. It's a whole wave. It's a fundamentally different way of being, anchored in a new age, an age just apart from what we've known as life. I've got a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. I'm very close to these forces. We've isolated with them much more than many people have. And we live in a family that's done a lot of work. And so we're freed up to be really present with these children as they are. You can't tell them what they are. Now, in environments that try to insist on different ways of being arbitrarily and to anchor their self-image and understanding of themselves from the past and the way reality works, a lot of flipping will happen. Which means when you tell beings that they can't be their whole self, they will do opposites of what you've done. And this can be very detrimental to everyone involved. For the record, I'm deeply apprehensive about anyone doing chemical level, surgical level changes to their physical form. I don't believe it's healthy in as many contexts as possible. I don't like using ibuprofen, people. So this is not an inconsistent attitude. And that's what happens when someone lives in communities that insist that they behave this or this or this way. They say, fine, fuck you. I'm going to be the opposite. Get it? So I reassert to you, the core need here is to be white light. You have to be able to identify with all the fundamental frequencies. You can't take any note on that guitar and tell me I can't be that note. When you take white light and you say, block red, you know what you see? Red. When you take white light and you block blue, you know what you get? Blue. So anything that's blocked gets exaggerated. And that is an explanation for a lot of the chaos people are having in the understanding and comprehension of gender right now. And I re-offer to you, the fundamental need here is to identify as white light. Get in touch with your spirit. Get in touch with your spiritual connection. Your spirit tree is planted in the earth and remembers itself with your soul. You embrace that soul energy and you trust it. And then you come back to the world and you figure out how to behave with each other. And we can do that together. Meditation. I invite you to bring a reverence into the attention you give to yourself. The reverence begins in the ritual. The ritual begins with your breath. There is no right or wrong way to do this. There is a correct way to do this for you. Being more in tune with the rhythms within you is what makes this more effective. Begin to sense the rhythm of your breathing. Gaze with your internal awareness at your heart. And I invite you to touch your sternum, the bottom of your sternum. Put a hand over it or poke it to accentuate sensation. Breathe and feel here. Allow your awareness to deepen and lengthen your breathing. Create space to register anything unusual or intense. And shift your awareness to the top of your crown. Go subtle. Feel and breathe here. Maintain touch if you so choose. Create space to become aware of anything unusual or unique that your crown has to show you. And breathe with an allowance, an openness to divine life force connecting with you here in greater presence at exactly the depth you are prepared to embrace. And exhale your way down to your throat. Breathe with the strength of the ocean in the back of your throat. Feel the rhythms of these waves open the connection between your head and your chest. Engage this breath, using it to actively focus in on tension here and dissolve it. Inhaling an openness to allowing yourself to express your truth more freely and in more creative ways. Registering anything out of the ordinary or particularly vibrant. Before moving on down to your sacral chakra, lifting a little higher and sensing a circle around your lower abdomen, hips, and lower back. Breathe waves from the pelvic floor all the way up the spine. Whenever you can, it is preferable to breathe through your nose unless the discomfort is distracting. Tuning in here, breathe with a trust that your attention and the loving embrace of the breath from within both dissolves dysfunction here and tunes you to what is healthy. Embrace the reverence that this kind of power can give you towards being alive in a body. And allow your awareness of anything that stands out, that the sacral chakra is revealing to you. And trust that one message in this whole meditation is enough, is more than enough to give you work to do. Shifting your attention up to the nose tip, breathe in a way that helps you feel here. I often use this breath just in, out, no pausing. Change the pace, feel here. The point is to shift your attention. You focus your attention and then you shift it to the next chakra. You use the breath work and the internal focus and movements to help accentuate your attention on each chakra point. What do you know that you don't know? What do you need to know that your internal guidance is telling you? What does the nose tip tell you not to do and to do? Feel here. Register any message that seems clear. And move on to the solar plexus. Drawing your belly up and in as you exhale, accentuating your focus, pumping energy up. It's also a great way to draw your attention inwards in yoga and meditation. What are you praying for? Reveal to yourself the way worry eats away at the space that's meant for your prayers. And use this breath to dissolve it. Registering anything even as simple as my solar plexus was kind of tense. Even that is enough to carry onwards. Diamond eye, moving up. This one's subtle. Touch it if you can't focus here. Draw your temples down as you inhale. Let go, stretching the skin up here. When you can focus without much effort physically, don't do much. Just shift your focus and breathe. Use the exercises as tools when you need them. This is dreamland. We don't get lost here. In the morning, in the evening, better time to focus here. Now, we pass through. If it speaks to you, listen, remember. And move on to the lungs. Breathe into your shoulders. Relax them. Sniffing. right at the collarbone. Breathe a relaxation into this space and become aware. What do you hold here? Learn anything about it. Remember it and breathe through it. And shift your way down to your root. Root lock. Ground the sit bones wherever you may be. Inhale into your belly. Exhale. Draw it in. Tuck. Lock. Inhale. Open. Powerful breath. Said to be the first place to begin to learn to levitate. Understanding your connection to the earth and gravity. Breathe into your root. Woo! Allow movement here, allow change here to reveal. Strong sensations are quite a message. You don't need to understand them to remember that's what happened when we focused on the root. Be curious about what's here. And shift up to your chin. Floating jaw. Sense what a floating jaw is as you breathe. The one breath where it's appropriate to let your mouth go open. You can tense it as you inhale and release. And be present in what it feels like to close your eyes and enter a change, to trust it, even if you don't know where you are going. And be present with this trust and the power of it. Use the breath to dissolve any lack of trust. And shift your way down to your navel, the well of fiery power that lives here. Breathe its strength up, sensing the power of your core. Feel your belly move ever so slightly as you breathe naturally, and if you need to, breathe faster. Playing with how much of an exercise you need to help you focus before resting in these effects. Just breathing with the chakra. Be aware of what your core holds, what it shows you now, and what it feels like to be present with your true power and nature. And shift your way up to your third eye. Woo! Open your eye. Breathe here. Focus here. You keep working on it. It works. Give a little attention to your third eye. It gives you a lot of attention on the spiritual world. When you focus on the sensation that a chakra gives you, you learn a lot about what it shares, and you gain a lot of influence over stabilizing and focusing yourself. The third eye is one of the most accessible to this influence. And back to your heart. What one element of awareness of this experience stands out the most to you now? One. When you take one priority from this meditation, you've cleansed and enlivened every element of your life. You've given every aspect of your spirit an opportunity to speak. And when your spirit shows you what's most important by what stands out the most, and you trust this, you have a focus that you can carry for a week. You can legitimately trust that the most present element of your memory in this meditation is important to emphasize for the next week. And to interpret it takes practice. And I would be happy to help. So anyone who would like to, please share what stood out for you. And because it's hard to have a conversation, I'll offer you a little bit of guidance about the critical basic things that I use to help interpret. And believe me, you can accomplish a lot more than you may expect. You probably already know much more than you think you know. And one of the biggest things we can do together is simply help you prioritize exactly what's already there, help you center it in your life and carry it throughout your week so you know that it matters, to hold it, remember it, work on it, come back to it, and see how much changes for you when you offer this kind of attention. All right. Warmth at your navel. So, look, it's the best. The navel is the center of your gravity, and it's what Chinese call the well of qi. It's access to the center of your power where spirit and matter interact in very powerful ways. So you can draw a lot of power from here, and people often do, and bring it up into your heart. The Merkaba meditation is a very powerful way to do this There are lots of traditions in which this is fundamentally important. We are going to work much more on doing this in an active way. We're going to the next level, people. This is important work. So when this is what's most prominent for you, you can take a lot from that. Basically, diminish your emphasis on anything else, because this meditation, treat it as sacred. Thoth taught it to me. He taught it to me as the most important thing I have to share in my entire life with the world. I do it every day in one way or another. Sometimes I do it fast, like in a minute. Sometimes I do half-hour versions, hour-long versions. I align yoga to it. I do quick versions that just tune it and I don't think. I do medium versions where I gain information. I do versions where I evaluate every piece of information and write it all down. There's so many ways to use it, but the simplest is to say, go through the cycle. What stands out the most? That's what matters most. Believe it. You remember warmth in your navel? That means focus on this and stay with it. It's a good time to build that strength. It's a good time to draw it into the rest of your life. You can do that physically by meditating up the spine. And I want to do this much more, but I can't really spend too much time teaching it right now. But you can also just trust that you've got a connection through whatever other layers of confusion and baggage in your life. You've got a connection to the well. By focusing on it and breathing, you make it stronger and you spread strength throughout your life. That could be what's most important this week. Then you want to watch. What do you want to use that strength for? There's a whole nother layer of evaluation. Are you going to use it well? But it's really awesome to be in a place where you can take your strength to the next level. And I encourage you to emphasize that in your life. Period. People overdo breath of fire. Don't do it every day. Jaw. Okay. I love it, Sarah, and thank you. And people, please watch what Sarah did, because she offered her own interpretation first, and I would prefer you do that. So if you feel open to it and you know enough to do it, offer your interpretation and I can affirm. That sounds awesome. It really does. It sounds like a wonderful interpretation. And I would then, put the question to you, what's a concrete step that you could take that would put that interpretation into action? So take a look at the decisions, and then can you act on them in a way that makes it more real and makes your trust, a more crucial factor at play? And what do you do with that? I'd be happy to hear it or reply, or just, carry that this week, because I think it's a phenomenal place to be in. It's not always time to make new decisions. And when we recognize that it can be our own trust that gets in the way of new decisions, it's even more crucial and more exciting to realize this is a point of power. This is a point of opportunity. It's really exciting. It's also, when it's not time to make decisions, there's time for deliberation. There's time for pondering. There's time for this and this and this and this. But when you know it's time to put your trust with your decisions, you get to say, hey, let's not ask 5 more people what they think. Time to act, time to put trust in it. And this isn't as flippant as saying any decision will teach you something. It's like, really and truly, spirit guides us. So even if we go left, we're going to get something we need left. Even if we go left and we needed to go somewhere over there, we're going to get something we need here, and we'll be steered back here. So don't get caught up in a indecision when it's time to act. Wow. Oh, that's beautiful. So think of this. People, particularly when you do a lot of readings on people, you can look at people's third eyes, and your third eye is where people hold distorted paradigms. What it looks like is sort of density. So it's in general, it's dangerous to think that black is bad because black is soil, black is the womb. That's not healthy. But it is important to recognize that if light doesn't move through a chakra, something is in the way of the movement through. So at best, it's time to take that density and get it into the soil. It doesn't belong living in your third eye all the time. When you know that golden light is pouring through your third eye, it's really imperative that you trust that golden light is pouring through your third eye. That might sound too simple, but think about it. Trust that. When you trust that you see with golden light, you can trust that what you are seeing is not your projection. And I think that is critical for a healer. Healers need to know that what we're seeing is not a projection. If I carry my sickness and I never face it and I don't ask for help, then when I do readings on people, I'm going to see other people. Now, once in the past year, I've had a standout moment where later I heard, oh, that was you, not them. And when that happened, I was ready to run to the computer and say, guys, I projected on this person, da-da-da-da. And you know what I got? It was good that I did that because they were trying to give me some shit and I pushed them away by projecting on them. And it's the only time that I felt that. The reason I can trust myself this way is because I'm constantly evaluating whether my third eye is pure when I live. And so when I do readings, I can say, hey, there's golden light coming through my vision. I tune in. You need to be able to get violet light going through because this is the resting spot. It's the resting frequency for the third eye. Every chakra can use every color. You need every chakra. You want every chakra to use every color. But all the other colors have meaning too. Golden light in many, many ways is drawing energy up from your core. Now, gold, if it's true to something that's sort of like living, vibrant yellow, we're talking navel energy, core energy shining through your third eye. It's supposed to work this way. That's the order, navel, third eye. So when you know that the navel energy is shining purely out your third eye, you get to know you yourself can trust that you are someone who can see purely into the world. Doesn't mean you will always see purely. It means you can. It's a powerful presence, and you need to do what you can do to keep getting into that purity of vision because you're a healer and people need you. That was more than I normally want to give, but it feels important. Okay. And that's why I was so assertive, because the opposite of projection is that what you see, you think is you. So it's like the opposite of projection, right? And last week when I read you, Karen, it really stood out that you are seeing pain in the world and interpreting that pain as if it's yours. And I was really excited to get the reading last week that you're a healer and then you're training to be a healer. And I could see that. And the presence of this gift in you is that healers see pain and you develop skills to know how to reply to that pain, accept it, embrace it when it's appropriate with the right boundaries and the right mechanisms, with permission, with consent, and you can help the world heal. You can help people live better lives. But if you walk around and you're seeing pain everywhere and you think you're sick, to know that golden light is flooding through your third eye is to say you're healthy. That light illuminates pain. When it illuminates pain, pay attention. Every month, reevaluate on a deep level. How are you doing? Are you facing all your own issues? Are you asking for help? Are you loving each other in your lives and in your close friends and family. And as long as you keep doing that, then you return to the sense you know that you can have a healthy, pure vision in the world. So what you see involves recognizing pain that needs help. From there, you need training to make sure you don't try to help people who aren't ready for help and all sorts of layers like that. But please trust there's a fundamental health in what you're doing. No, thank you. And I think it's important to accentuate. And you know, it's not like you have to go through the circle of fifths keyring meditation in order to get spiritual communication that's relevant. This meditation is a really wonderful way to address every part of yourself and to develop priority. If you know that those messages came to you in meditation, work with them. And if you care to share more of an interpretation, please do. Wow. I love it, Tom. So it's really important to just memorize this cycle, right? So you know not only what's happening in a chakra, but what are the relationship to the other chakras. Dreams, diamond eye. Diamond eye precedes the lungs. So energy from the diamond eye flows naturally and interacts with the lungs. So it's very natural to say, when you have a dream, what kind of choices and decisions do you make in relation to that dream? That's exactly what happens next. So your interpretation begins exactly how you would want it to. I would encourage you to consider, partly because it's the intuitive hint I get right away, that a lot of nightmarish energies, a lot of negative fears get sort of isolated into the diamond eye, and to trust that your guidance is saying, don't let that undermine you. You've been carrying fear for yourself, for other people, and your mystical vision is telling you this is not fear that's going to damage your reality. And that's like one of the most extreme examples you could consider, right? Like you could walk through a nuclear blast. So now is really a time to carefully discern when fear isn't yours and to just keep going with your truth. I'm mostly accentuating what you're saying, and I hope it helps. Yes, I left believing that, Karen. It was a profound reading last week, and particularly your own self-awareness. Like I say again, it is so crucial for healers to not project. So last week we did a reading with Karen in which I saw all this. I saw that she was seeing pain a lot around her in the world. One of the most crucial things people need to do when you see pain in the world is to ask whether you're projecting. Because when I'm in pain, not only is it highly plausible that I project on others, but it's also very common that, yeah, you see other people's pain, but you're there because you're in pain. So when we're in a pain world, we see the same thing all around us in the world. That doesn't mean you're qualified to help everybody else, right? But I got the intuitive guidance that she really is on the road to be a healer. And as it turns out, she's in school studying to be a healer. When you're a healer, you have a very different relationship to these forces. You were taught to see the pain in the world because you have the capacity to do something about it. Now, this next very big lesson is to walk through the world seeing pain and not rushing up to people and telling them about it, not taking responsibility for it, knowing that you can help, but then developing the skill to have a format, a style, a modality that you work within, and then to negotiate healthy boundaries, people approaching you with respect, paying you in some form, or if you choose to give it, having a healthy exchange in a way that leaves you free from whatever baggage you help heal. That's why we go to school. That's why we learn to be healers in one way or another, but to trust the fundamental gift that the reason you see pain in the world is because you are here to help it. It's a crucial step. You don't want to internalize it and believe you are everything that you see. I would love to hear from anyone else. Thank you for asking, Kinsey. And I would particularly love to know, when we were on the route, did anyone have a strong shift? Because I detected a strong shift, and it's often a kind of feeling that I only get when others of you are experiencing it at the same time. So let's shift to, if no one else wants to share your experience, and we've gotten a bunch of people, so thank you. And I hope this gives you insight into how to interpret things. Any questions of any sort? Welcome, open to them. I've got a little more time, but I'm a little tired. It's been a long week. Oh, goodness, people. There was another message that I wanted to make sure I remembered too. So I'm going to give a little more space for last experience from the meditation or general questions. And I'm going to tune in and make sure I don't forget anything. So I've been oh my gosh, Tom, are you serious? That's awesome. So Angie and Tom have engaged a very important project. Pendulums are an incredible tool. I first learned to intuitively interpret with a pendulum. When you use a pendulum, you can do very simple diagnostics, and they start simple. You can just do show me yes and show me no. This is an incredible little magic connection to your intuition. It's in the subtle rhythms of vibration itself. And when you do show me yes or show me no, it'll spin one way or another or move back and forth in different ways, and it will be amazingly consistent. So you can ask very simple questions, hold the pendulum, and allow it to reveal to you just a yes or a no. Imagine how much information you can get from consistent sequential yeses and nos. Is this a physical problem or a spiritual problem? Is this my problem or someone else's? Is the energy that I'm feeling right now from my heart, or has it entered me from an external source? This is really crucial information. And I promise you, a pendulum is a phenomenal way to get in touch with it. Angie's been getting into next level insight in how pendulums can work. And she asked Tom to help design one, and Tom's making them. It's awesome. It's really exciting because this is the tool that can bring you towards the kind of intuition that I'm using in really dynamic ways. It is a first level way to get a lot more information about spirit and what your spirit has to tell you. And from there, you can build as much as and more than I do. So I'm really excited you're making them, Tom. I didn't realize the project was that far along. I'm so excited to see it. You are welcome, Karen. Exactly. So next level stuff, people. We're working on the new community. I'm hoping that it will be ready by the turn of the month. We'll see. I'm still apprehensive. It's hard to get a read. I don't think anything's going to be quite as cool as Valiant at first, but we're going to create a space and we're going to go from there. And I want to involve a lot more live meets. So we've just done some, and it's been really influential. There's so much more that's possible when we're doing live Zoom sessions, but I don't want to do that in general openness. So we're going to do a membership. I don't know exactly numbers right now. And there's like a permanent willingness. If you really want to be there and you don't have a lot of money, you can do a work trade of a different sort. So there's plenty of room for that. And the first people who want in, it's going to be cheaper and it's going to be more accessible because your heart is the most important thing possible. But we want commitment, and we want to be developing in a way that builds on what we've done in Bali and takes it to the next level, where we're doing things like this, where Angie can teach pendulum work, Tom can make pendulums, Misty can teach more about crystals. I know many of you have other gifts that could certainly be your membership to share with everyone, and eventually building in more ways than that. Very excited about this. So more to come. If you want updates, we're developing a list, an email list in Volley. If you want to be added to it, let us know. Just sort of like the core group that's been there all along. All you need is desire, and you can be a part of it in this way from the beginning. And we'll just tell you more as we develop. Alora's really hard at work in making there's a live chat meeting and video posts available, and we're just got to put things together and create the right kind of walls. We put up the first version, and I think we've got over 200 messages that are all spam already. So you have to be pretty conscious of how you make these things. But it's exciting. It's exciting to see. Strong root, third eye, and crown. So when the root and the crown are going, this is something else. All right. So when the root and the crown are going, that's a strong sign that you can start working on the link. If you imagine a straight line from the crown to the root. Now think about the crown and the root. They're the two unique ones because they're the beginning and the end of the cycle. And when you imagine a straight line from the crown to the root, this is what gives you access deeper in. I can't tell you enough, people, that the critical place where you have influences is the surface of the body. There's so much going on in spiritual reality. There's so much going on in energetics. If you just let your attention wander all around, you're not going to make enough progress. When you focus on the surface and the access points, by the way, I see so much right now that when I look at the screen, I can't see my face at all. I see so much energy. Like when I do all these readings, I get into this energy vision. It's really cool. All I see, I can't even see my glasses. I see so much energy. There, now I see the glasses again. I have to make a shift. Anyway, when you focus on the points, feeling the chakra point, and the chakra point, we're talking like a dime, okay? Chakra point, chakra point, chakra point, chakra point, point. When you focus on these points, this is where you have the most influence. Spend years. I still use them, okay? And we do get windows into deeper access. And sensations we get on the sides and back of our body really matter. When you get the crown and the root connected, you can start visualizing this straight line down through. That is access into the chakra. And when you start feeling with the chakra itself, super cool. So that means you've done work to get to cleanse that far, Angie, and it's a really exciting place to be. Woohoo! Me too. All right. It's enough. I love being with you guys. I am tired, but it's really fun to do things this way, and I think it has a lot of potential. So we'll see. I'm definitely seriously considering putting all readings inside the community space. I like walls around it for my own sake. I'm left with a lot of dissonance, and there's just a hard 10, 12 people. that get readings this way, and I want to make space for a bigger community. So readings may well permanently go there. We'll see week to week. I like doing these interpretations and doing a meditation together where everybody is learning self-readings, and then we can use evaluating some of you as a way to sort of teach how to think about it. So everyone's learning to do it, which is far more empowering. Bless you guys. It's good to see you. Good to be here. I'm going to go take a rest. Much love.